Welcome to the deep dive. Before we begin, just a heads up. Today's discussion explores some really sensitive and potentially disturbing themes. We'll be talking about graphic violence, sexual abuse, institutional corruption, and also alleged conspiracy elements. So, listener discretion is definitely advised. Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine a place, somewhere, the lines between, state control, hidden agendas, and just raw human experience, they completely blur. A facility that operates way outside the public eye, housing people whose stories, honestly, they almost defy belief. Today, we're taking a deep dive into an extraordinary firsthand account from inside just such an institution.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating here, right, is we're not just discussing your typical correctional facility or even, a standard psychiatric hospital.
Right.
Our source material describes what it calls a Blacksite Berlin, or penal psychiatry. That's the term used for a camouflage secret prison.
A camouflage secret prison. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. So this isn't just about, locking people up. It's about an environment where, according to this account, the staff allegedly operate on behalf of the German, American, and Russian states.
All three.
All three. All supposedly under the umbrella of an international deep state. Now, this immediately raises a critical question, doesn't it? What kind of reality actually emerges when you have these disparate powerful forces converging in one hidden institution operating completely outside standard oversight?
Precisely. Yeah, that's the core of it. So our mission today is to navigate this intensely personal, autobiographical account. It's from the buyer from the World Succession Deed 1400. We'll just call him the buyer.
Yeah.
He shared this collection of notes, personal observations. It basically peels back the curtain on this facility, revealing what he experienced as, factual occurrences.
As he experienced them, yeah.
It's a journey into the daily lives, the really peculiar characters, and the, frankly, shocking events that he claims unfold within those walls. You'll hear about incredible digital ingenuity used for, escape, desperate relationships born out of confinement, some deeply unsettling criminal profiles, and just the sheer tenacity of individuals trying to survive in a world very few people even know exists. So as we dive into the buyer's experiences, what does this all mean for those inside and maybe for our understanding of these hidden systems operating in the shadows?
Well, we'll be exploring these occurrences, these specific events within this penal psychiatry directly through the buyer's account. Our goal really is to present these firsthand experiences, these specific events, and the perspectives they contain exactly as he describes them.
Right.
We're here to understand the reality presented in his source material, rather than, endorsing or disputing the viewpoints he expresses within it. Just laying out what he says happened. Set of the scene. Blacksite Berlin, penal psychiatry. A camouflaged reality.
Okay, so before we even meet the people involved, let's try and establish this chilling setting. We're talking about Blacksite Berlin, which the buyer explicitly calls a camouflaged secret prison. It sounds like it's far more than just an ordinary psychiatric clinic. What does that actually imply about its true operations, its place in the world, according to his notes?
Well, the designation itself, camouflaged secret prison, if we connect it to the broader claims in his account, it really suggests a deliberate, probably highly sophisticated effort to obscure its true nature, its real purpose.
Hiding in plain sight, kind of.
Exactly, hiding it from public scrutiny, from traditional oversight. The buyer's notes highlight this idea that the personnel within this Blacksite operate alternately on behalf of German, American, and Russian states.
Right. You mentioned that, the deep state connection.
Yes, all supposedly hidden under the pretense of this international deep state. Now, that's a pivotal claim in his account. It implies this complex, really opaque web of allegiances that just inherently bypasses conventional government, conventional legal frameworks.
So normal rules don't apply.
That's the implication. This structure, as he portrays it, creates this unique and profoundly complex power dynamic inside the institution. Loyalties, directives, they might be constantly shifting, fostering an environment of extreme opaqueness, ambiguity, and the potential for, conflicting national interests to influence daily operations and the fates of the people locked up there.
Wow.
It suggests a facility that kind of exists in this legal and ethical gray area, operating with a degree of autonomy that's, frankly, It's unsettling to even think about.
Yeah, absolutely. And inside this unique setting, the buyer himself is facing his own profound challenges, specifically with his mental clarity, his personal autonomy.
Right.
He mentions the Verdammt-Swanks medication, the forced medication. He says it's constantly clouding his mind, sedating him, making him sleep for like huge chunks of the
It's
day.
a significant part of the day.
That sounds like a deep struggle, not just physically, but for his actual intellect. How does he describe fighting against what he sees as this like deliberate mental assault?
Well, his account really reveals that the forced medication isn't just, a physical constraint. He experiences it as a direct, deliberate assault on his cognitive function, on his personal autonomy. Basically, an ongoing attempt to control and subdue his mind.
Okay.
And what's remarkable, looking at his notes, is the buyer's response. He actively seeks out intellectual stimulation, like as a countermeasure. He turns learning into a form of mental resistance.
So fighting back with his brain.
Pretty much. He explicitly states he needs to oppose the mental decay brought on by this medication, combined with the isolation, the sheer confinement of the Blacksite.
Right.
This isn't just some passive desire for knowledge. It elevates the act of learning, acquiring information, into this profound act of self-preservation. Defiance, even. It highlights that fundamental human need, doesn't it? To learn, to grow, to maintain your intellectual self, even under the most extreme duress. Knowledge acquisition becomes this essential act of mental, maybe even spiritual resistance against what he sees as an oppressive, mind-numbing environment.
Let's zoom into Station 10B then. That's the specific cell block where the buyer is housed. It sounds like a particularly tough environment.
Definitely.
He describes how it used to be a mixed station but then got converted, primarily for sexual offenders, and even now it's about 80% occupied by them.
Yeah, the vast majority.
And the buyer notes he was the only one in his section of cells not locked up for a sexual offense. That alone must have been an incredibly heavy burden, just being surrounded by that specific, often disturbing population. What does his account tell us about the daily realities there?
Well, that demographic reality, it profoundly shapes daily life, the interactions, everything. Imagine being surrounded almost entirely by individuals convicted of really serious sexual offenses.
Yeah.
It inevitably colors every conversation, every perception. It probably creates an atmosphere charged with specific anxieties, specific dynamics.
I can only imagine.
And his notes detail the stark economic reality within the Blacksite, too, which immediately impacts, the quality of life. Inmates earn minimal wages for work therapy. We're talking paltry sums, 0.33, 0.66, or maybe 0.99 cents an hour.
Cents per hour? Seriously?
Cents per hour. Yet they face what he calls high German prices for goods inside the facility.
So, a total mismatch.
Completely. It creates this perpetual crushing cycle of debt. The buyer explains that patients are typically broke by the second day of the month.
A second day.
Yeah, after buying, say, a month's supply of tobacco and paying off previous debts. This system creates a constant state of financial precarity. It further disempowers people, makes them reliant on the institution, or, well, as we'll see, it potentially fuels illicit economies.
Yeah.
Desperate exchanges within the facility just to meet basic needs.
Right. It's a striking observation about the sort of deliberate microeconomic design of their confinement. So, trapped inside this camouflaged prison, dealing with forced medication, the grim reality of Station 10B, it seems almost impossible for anyone to maintain any sense of connection or mental activity. How did the buyer manage to find any kind of lifeline, any escape from that constant pressure? And what did he find when he did?
Well, this is where the buyer's ingenuity really comes through. Despite the strict controls, the oppressive atmosphere, he found this unexpected lifeline: internet access.
Internet. In there. How?
His account details how, after being moved to a cell next to another inmate, the one he calls the paid or sugar daddy, he sees this unique opportunity. This neighbor had somehow managed to smuggle in a mobile router and an Xbox One S.
Wow. Okay.
The buyer quickly capitalized on this, bought an Xbox himself for 300 euros, came with games, 9 of them adult-rated apparently, and then subscribed to the internet for 20 euros a month.
After 10 years offline, you said.
10 years offline. He just plunged into the depths of the net, devouring information on cutting-edge fields: AI, quantum computing, robotics, even longevity research.
Soaking it all up.
Literally. This clandestine internet access, it's a powerful testament to human resourcefulness, isn't it? The pursuit of knowledge, even in the most restricted, controlled places like this penal psychiatry.
Yeah, it really is.
It served as that direct counter-narrative to the forced mental decline he described from the medication. He wasn't just, idly browsing.
No.
He explicitly states he was able to refresh his foreign language skills. Describes how he literally soaked up all the new information. He used this digital escape to move beyond that thought loop of imprisonment that seems to dominate other patients' minds.
Focusing on growth instead.
Right. Focusing on intellectual growth, connection to the rapidly evolving world outside.
Hmm.
However, this journey also led to some profoundly unsettling discoveries about that outside world.
Oh, like what?
He recounts finding a list, supposedly, of the worst non-sexual websites. He remembered one site where people paid for a woman to gargle a liter of milk and then ship it back.
Ship the gargled milk.
Yeah. He found the concept utterly traumatizing. This detail highlights the bizarre, sometimes disturbing extremes of human behavior existing outside the psychiatry. A stark contrast to the grim reality of his confinement, yet exposing him to a different kind of strangeness in the human psyche.
Wow, that's, yeah, a whole other level of weird,
Entrika.
too. The Toyboy's tumultuous relationships and cyber blackmail saga. So as the buyer navigated his own sort of intellectual resistance, his observations couldn't help but be drawn to the dramatic personal lives unfolding around him, right?
Absolutely. He's right there in the thick of it.
One particularly vivid example was his neighbor, the Toyboy. His desperate relationships became another window into the Blacksite's hidden dynamics. Tell us about the Toyboy's whirlwind of relationships inside those walls. Starting with that, rather unforgettable first impression.
Right, the Toyboy story. It immediately sets a tone for the unusual, often really explicit dynamics within the Blacksite. His account begins with his relationship with the pedo sugar daddy, the one who supported him financially.
Yeah.
And the buyer remembers this very memorable anecdote involving a massive spermafleck and durand, a massive semen stain on the wall that they actually had to clean up.
Oh, wow. Okay, graphic but memorable.
Definitely memorable. And this incident, while graphic, it immediately signals the overt nature of some of these relationships within the facility. The Toyboy's relationship with the pedo sugar daddy wasn't hidden. It was openly acknowledged, even confessed in therapy.
Confessed in therapy.
Yeah, which speaks to a certain lack of maybe conventional boundaries or expectations in that environment. This confession actually led to his transfer. He got moved to a mixed station, 6A, where, ironically, the buyer's own mother was staying at the time.
No kidding.
Yeah, and here, his preferences seemed to shift, or at least expand. He quickly entered a heterosexual relationship with a nearly 50-year-old widowed patient, who also, conveniently for him, provided financial support.
Ah, so there's a pattern emerging, seeking financial backing.
It seems so. That pattern of seeking financial backing from partners, regardless of gender, quickly becomes this recurring theme in his story. It reveals a kind of core dependency.
It sounds like a pattern of just seeking security and support through relationships, maybe? And this new relationship with the sugar mama, it led to an even more dramatic development, an escape attempt.
That's right.
Walk us through that. What happened next?
Yeah, the new relationship definitely provided the spark for a daring, if ultimately futile, escape. During an accompanied outing, when they're allowed outside with staff, the Toyboy and his sugar mama just fled from a supermarket, disappeared into the outside world.
Wow. Did they get far?
They found temporary refuge with the Toyboy's brother. But even family ties, the buyer notes, couldn't hold. After only a few days, the brother tipped off the police.
Oh, the brother turned them in.
Yeah. Led to their swift apprehension. They were brought back to the Blacksite, immediately separated. The Toyboy went back to Station 10B.
So back where he started.
Exactly. And this swift return, this separation, it just underscores the profound futility, the near impossibility of escape attempts from this kind of penal psychiatry. It reveals the pervasive, inescapable control of the institution.
Must have been a crushing blow, no doubt. Yet back on Station 10B, the Toyboy seems to have made another dramatic declaration, shifted his identity again.
He did. Back on 10B, the Toyboy declared himself a reformed heterosexual, vowing eternal loyalty to his new girlfriend, the sugar mama, the one he intended to marry.
Started planning the wedding, even.
Yeah, he even began discussing wedding plans with the clinic staff, presenting this facade of stability. Now, this particular woman was actually already known to the buyer.
Oh, really? How?
He'd seen her pictures, and in his notes, he found her mere existence tormenting. She was, as he describes her, the total verrückte with ex-Ehefrau, these BDSM strichers.
The La-Av? Say that again?
The totally crazy widowed ex-wife of the BDSM hustler. This hustler had died on Station 10C from hepatitis C.
Okay, quite a backstory.
Oh, yeah. Her previous relationship was characterized by an astonishing record. 7 breakups and reconciliations. Constant crying, dramatic discussions over what the buyer calls degenerate problems, in a continuous loop, often multiple times a week.
Wow. Intense.
Extremely. So this context, these observations from the buyer about the Blacksite's internal social fabric, it paints this vivid picture of the intense, often dysfunctional, highly dramatic relationships cultivated within the confines of this penal psychiatry. Emotional volatility, complex personal histories. They seem to be common threads. It reveals a world where external relationships are often dragged inside, amplifying the already intense environment.
So despite these grand declarations of great love, wedding plans,
Mhm.
it sounds like old patterns quickly reemerged, particularly concerning his financial struggles.
Oh, absolutely.
How did this manifest? What desperate measures did the Toyboy resort to this time?
Indeed, the buyer observes that the declarations of eternal love were, well, pretty short-lived. After only a few weeks, the Toyboy was back to having sex with the pedo sugar daddy.
Back again.
Back again. Signaling a return to his previous patterns. He even started another relationship with an age-appropriate female patient who also provided financial support.
So juggling multiple benefactors now.
Seems like it.
Yeah.
Demonstrating his consistent need for external resources. The buyer notes that the Toyboy simply couldn't handle money. He was constantly broke and perpetually in need of tobacco, which, as you said, is a common theme for many inmates there.
Right, the tobacco.
This desperation led him to sell literally everything he had, borrow relentlessly from others, and disturbingly engage in sexual services to a permanently horny gay cannibal, just for quick cash.
Wait, a cat?
That's the term used in the account, a permanently horny gay cannibal. It's a stark, truly disturbing detail, illustrating the extreme, almost unimaginable measures individuals might resort to just to fulfill basic perceived needs, like a tobacco addiction, within this tightly controlled, economically disadvantaged system.
That's horrible.
It paints a chilling picture of a microeconomy driven by desperate means, exploitative exchanges. Where human dignity could be severely compromised for a few cents, it really reveals the intense pressures of confinement.
The story takes another dark turn, doesn't it, with the Toyboy and a smuggled phone?
Yes, another layer of complexity.
He used it for a virtual relationship with a single mother from Berlin, exchanging explicit messages, pictures, videos, but then his phone was hacked. All his data stolen.
Exactly. And the blackmailers demanded an exorbitant sum, 150,000 euros, threatening to publish his dick pics online under his real name.
150,000 euros for an inmate.
Precisely. And this is where the buyer offers that very sharp observation about the massive disconnect between the blackmailer's demands and the inmate's reality.
How did that play out?
Well, this incident is a vivid illustration of how the vulnerabilities of the outside world can penetrate even the walls of the Blacksite, with deeply personal, high-stakes consequences for those inside. The buyer notes that the pedo sugar daddy, leveraging his own illicit internet access.
Ah, the tech guy.
Right. He managed to trace the blackmailer's IP address to the Ivory Coast in Africa.
Africa.
Yeah. And the buyer's account describes this profound cultural misunderstanding, observing that these African blackmailers obviously think that for Europeans, 150,000 euros ransom for nude pictures is not a problem.
Which is absurd for someone inside.
Completely absurd.
Yeah.
He immediately counters this with the harsh, crushing reality of Blacksite inmates' finances, pointing out they earn Africa-like incomes, those cents per hour, but are forced to contend with high German prices inside.
Making the ransom impossible.
Utterly impossible. So the Toyboy, being both unable and unwilling to pay such an amount, now has his explicit images published online, a permanent mark of this exploitation.
Wow.
This incident, for the buyer, becomes this poignant illustration of systemic economic disparity, the profound vulnerability of individuals, even inside a high-security institution, to external exploitation. And it powerfully shines a light on the meager economic realities of life in this penal psychiatry, where inmates are left utterly powerless against such demands.
Yeah.
The core insight here, really, is that in environments like the Blacksite, extreme economic deprivation, despite the alleged backing of this sophisticated deep state, ironically makes inmates more vulnerable to external exploitation, turning even basic needs into currency within a brutal illicit economy and exposing them to external threats they are completely unequipped to handle.
That's a really stark point. Finey 3, the pedo sugar daddy. A case study in deception and technical acumen. Okay, let's delve deeper now into the buyer's other next-door neighbor, the pedo sugar daddy. The buyer describes himself as being like strategically placed next to this individual,
Right.
realizing this unique opportunity for what he actually calls a personal pedo case study. He wanted to understand how they tick, observing him, questioning him relentlessly.
Yeah, it's a chilling detail, isn't it? Turning a fellow inmate into a research subject, even in that grim setting.
Absolutely. What did the buyer uncover about this man's criminal profile, his methods?
Well, this approach, this need to understand, even profoundly disturbing behavior, it really reflects the buyer's intellectual drive, that act of resistance we talked about earlier.
Right.
The pedo sugar daddy is described in the buyer's source as a serial offender. Over 24 court-known victims. A truly horrifying figure.
24.
At least. His method, as detailed, wasn't direct rape. It was this subtle, insidious grooming process. He saw children as people with the same interests, being particularly nice, patient, understanding to earn their trust, then abusing them, pressuring them not to reveal anything.
Grooming.
Classic grooming. He specifically targeted prepubescent girls, but his scope was broader. He also attempted to groom prepubescent boys, even young men in their 20s.
Wow.
And a disturbing observation from the buyer about his pathology is that he wasn't interested in adult women at all. In fact, he only had sex with an adult woman for the first time at age 32.
Okay.
And this was with the sole, calculated aim of conceiving a child he could later abuse.
Conceiving a child to abuse.
That's the claim in the account. It reveals this chilling, long-term strategic mindset behind his crimes, where allegedly every aspect of his life was geared towards facilitating his predatory actions.
His personal life, as documented by the buyer, reveals an even more disturbing pattern. Calculated manipulation.
Yeah, it gets worse.
He married a woman he found ugly, fat, with strong body odor, a single mother, simply because she was easy to get and he wanted a child.
Right. Purely transactional, it sounds like.
And he even abused the son she brought into the marriage, highlighting his opportunistic, predatory nature. But his ultimate goal, apparently, was a daughter for abuse.
The daughter was the specific goal.
Leading him to endure what he called unerträglichen flick sex, unbearable, obligatory sex with his wife, until she became pregnant with a girl. Once he had a daughter, the obligatory sex just stopped.
Just stopped.
He fed and fattened his wife, who apparently went from 90 to 160 kilograms at 158 centimeter height, becoming completely dependent, isolated, while he became an unemployed house husband with ample time for children.
It's a calculated, horrifying strategy. It speaks to an extreme level of premeditation.
Yeah.
This detailed account of his marital life, it's profoundly unsettling, demonstrating that calculated, long-term strategy for obtaining victims, really highlighting his manipulative genius. The buyer's notes vividly describe what he calls the Fritzl Keller.
The Fritzl Keller!
Yeah.
Like Joseph Fritzl.
Exactly. A chilling reference to the infamous Joseph Fritzl, who imprisoned and abused his own daughter for decades in a hidden cellar. In this Fritzl Keller, the pedo sugar daddy would supposedly play and take care of his own and other children in the basement, away from his wife and her friends.
Creating a hidden space for abuse.
Precisely. This deliberate creation of a hidden, controlled space, while simultaneously presenting himself to the outside world as this caring father, childminder, it underscores his manipulative brilliance, his ability to construct this deceptive facade.
Unbelievable.
He even offered himself as an undeclared household helper and childminder, worked as a substitute teacher. Explicitly, the buyer claims to gain access to more potential victims. The buyer's case study reveals this deeply pathological individual who meticulously, strategically constructs his entire life to facilitate his crimes. Even when confined within the strictures of penal psychiatry, his mind continues to operate in the same twisted patterns of control and deception.
His crimes eventually came to light, though. How did that happen?
Apparently, he became careless with a boy he hadn't fully indoctrinated, the boy told his mother. And that led to the discovery of the 24 victims.
Okay, so inside the Blacksite, he's taking chemical castration, but no psych meds.
Right. Chemical castration, yes, but no psychopharmaceuticals. And he received, according to the buyer, 12 false diagnoses in 4 years from what the buyer dismisses as incompetent psychologists.
12 false diagnoses.
That's the claim. The buyer just dismisses them, states unequivocally he is a pedophile, and there is neither a pill nor therapy for that. A really powerful, direct assessment of an unchangeable condition, in his view.
And what else did the buyer observe about his self-perception? His continued engagement with these disturbing fantasies, even inside?
Well, the buyer's observation highlights what he sees as a critical issue: the perceived efficacy, or lack thereof, and competence of treatment within the penal psychiatry. the apparent inadequacy of diagnosis and treatment for severe offenders as he saw it.
Right.
Furthermore, the paid sugar daddy exhibits these profound grandiose delusions, claiming to own a radio station just because he created a free music streaming playlist,
Seriously.
or calling himself a jack of all trades. The buyer sharply labels him Mr. 75%,
Mr. 75%.
meaning someone who masters nothing fully, abandons projects prematurely, revealing this profound lack of follow-through despite some initial brilliance. The source further reveals disturbing details about his original pedo story sci-fi books, apparently inspired by Star Trek.
Sci-fi books detailing his fantasies.
Yeah, graphically detailing his fantasies. Reportedly sold 10,000 times. He also utilized Minecraft servers, TeamSpeak, for what the buyer calls cyber grooming, making videos with children on YouTube.
So, continuing his activities online even then.
It paints a picture of a criminal mind relentlessly pursuing its illicit interests, leveraging any available tool or platform, even within the confines of the Blacksite, demonstrating this chilling persistence of intent.
And despite all this, the buyer claims the police were incompetent, missing crucial evidence.
Yeah, he claims they missed a box of child pornography and a loaded pistol during their search of his home.
A loaded gun. Wow. Astonishing if true.
Truly astonishing. The buyer also details this disturbing suicide attempt by the paid sugar daddy, sealing his apartment with gas, only to be stopped by what the buyer describes as a very sweet voice message from an 8-9-year-old boy.
Stopped by a child's voice message.
Yeah, emphasizing the perverse depth of his connection to children, even to the point of preventing his own death.
That is profoundly disturbing.
It really is, illustrating how deeply entrenched his pedophilia is, to the point that a child's voice message can stop his suicide, whereas the fear of incarceration alone couldn't.
And his life in the Blacksite continued to reflect this.
Absolutely. He participated in sex offender group therapy, but often spent the time criticizing the deeds of others, suggesting this chilling lack of self-insight or maybe a complete inability to acknowledge his own culpability.
No remorse, basically.
Seemingly not. And even with chemical castration, the buyer notes he had more sex than ever outside, sometimes with multiple partners in a day, including allegedly oral sex with a corrupt Russian guard in the observation room.
A guard.
Yeah, who in return supposedly smuggled in contraband. This reveals a deeply troubling level of corruption, moral compromise within the Blacksite itself, as described in the account, where staff allegedly enable illicit activities for personal gain, further blurring the lines of its true purpose, undermining its security.
It suggests that if there's this alleged deep state influence creating a lack of accountability,
then corruption can flourish at every level, turning guards into facilitators of illicit inmate activities. That's the picture painted.
Beyond his criminal profile, though, this guy is also described as a remarkable tech wizard.
Oh, yeah. That's the other side of him.
He managed to hide that mobile router inside a TV for 4 years, ingeniously drawing power from the TV's internal supply.
Incredible, right?
And then refined it with a magnet USB cable for easy on-off, making it almost undetectable. That level of technical skill dedicated to illicit activity in a supposedly high-security facility. It's remarkable.
His technical prowess is indeed a striking observation from the buyer, showcasing a mind capable of extraordinary ingenuity, albeit directed towards illicit ends. He wasn't just connecting to a network. He engineered this sophisticated solution to maintain connectivity in a highly restricted environment.
And it went further than that.
Oh, yes. His technical abilities extended even further. He apparently had remote access to not one, but 2 actual PCs outside the Blacksite. One in his former Berlin apartment, another at a friend's in Stuttgart, for which he even paid the electricity bill.
Remote PC access from inside.
Imagine the layers of deception, the meticulous planning required just to maintain that connection, let alone using it to run complex software like Unreal and Unity Engine for programming, or engaging in web development with HTML, JavaScript, often using AI assistants for tasks.
So high-level stuff, not just browsing.
Definitely not just idle browsing. It was a sustained, high-level intellectual pursuit. However, despite this impressive capability, the buyer observed he was still that true Mr. 75%.
Right, abandoning projects.
Exactly. Abandoning projects once they became too challenging. This illustrates that consistent pattern. Brilliant initiation, but a profound lack of follow-through when faced with complex problem-solving. A consistent character trait, it seems, permeating both his criminal and intellectual pursuits, ultimately limiting his achievements despite his undeniable talent.
The insight here is just how extreme, cunning, even genius-level technical skill.
Can be harnessed for illicit purposes within a supposedly secure institution, highlighting significant vulnerabilities. 4. The kindergarten Shrek.
Mm.
Exhibitionism, arson, burglary, and feigned amnesia.
Okay, let's turn to the buyer's neighbor on the other side now, an individual known as the kindergarten Shrek, often translated as the kindergarten boogeyman.
Yeah. Another colorful character, sadly.
His admission to the Blacksite was due to what the buyer calls a truly embarrassing action, being caught masturbating with his pants down in front of a kindergarten.
Yeah.
That sounds like textbook exhibitionism, a very direct public form of sexual deviance. What more did the buyer observe about his behavior, his attempts to manipulate the system?
Well, the buyer's notes explicitly define this as exhibitionism, according to the ICD-10 classification, a disorder of sexual preference, typically involving men exposing their genitals in public without seeking further contact, often followed by masturbation.
Right.
The buyer notes the kindergarten Shreks, just over-the-top interest in teenage girls and women, a constant, pervasive preoccupation.
He gives an example, doesn't he, on the U-Bahn?
He does. He recounts this psychologically highly tense incident on the subway. The kindergarten Shrek was apparently overcome by a 14-year-old girl sitting next to him. Turned red, started trembling, refused to move, despite his companion urging him to change seats.
Wow.
It showcases this intense, uncontrolled sexual drive, which the buyer directly connects to what he perceives as a first step to a potential rape, highlighting the perceived immediate danger in his uncontrolled impulses.
And his behavior inside the Blacksite reflected this too.
Well, yeah. His constant sort of disgusting pursuit of the nursing staff in the Blacksite, even the ones the buyer describes as underendowed, unattractive, who sometimes apparently responded to his crude advances, it further demonstrates this unbridled sexual compulsion, a complete lack of filters or boundaries.
He was supposed to take chemical castration, though, to get unaccompanied outings.
That was the deal, yeah.
But he refused, claiming a needle phobia.
A spritzen phobia, yeah, a needle phobia. But the buyer, in this moment of playful but very telling experimentation, exposed this as a lie.
How?
He threatened him with a thorn from a plant and apparently easily pierced his arm multiple times. The guy didn't flinch.
So just a blatant lie to avoid the castration.
Seems like it. This inmate's ability to deceive, even in such a direct way within a supposed therapeutic environment, is truly fascinating and revealing.
How did the buyer view the therapeutic efforts aimed at him then, if he's lying so easily?
Well, this incident exposes what the buyer sees as a critical issue with the Blacksite's therapeutic environment. The ease with which some patients manipulate the system, and the apparent gullibility or maybe ineffectiveness of the staff.
Right.
His sexual therapy sessions, as described by the buyer, were equally baffling in their approach, and, in the buyer's opinion, utterly ineffective.
What did he see?
The buyer describes seeing photocopies of therapy material, stuff that contained pages full of sex positions, and explicit explanations of what he calls perverse practices like diaper sex, caviar, and golden shower.
Therapy material, seriously, for sexual offenders.
That's what the buyer reports seeing. He found it inexplicable, questioned how such content could possibly help sexual offenders gain self-control or deter them from their impulses.
Yeah, that seems counterintuitive, to say the least.
It suggests a deeply flawed or maybe fundamentally misunderstood approach to therapy within this penal psychiatry, where the methods seem to exacerbate rather than alleviate the issues, or at the very least fail to provide any meaningful intervention.
The core insight being that in institutions supposedly offering therapy,
A lack of critical oversight, maybe a lack of specialized understanding, can lead to methods that are, at best, ineffective, and at worst, counterproductive, enabling manipulation rather than fostering rehabilitation.
beyond his sexual offenses, though, the kindergarten Shrek has this truly wild criminal history.
Oh, it's quite a background.
Son of one of Berlin's most notorious pimps, his mother stabbed his father, leading to his childhood in a maternity prison at age 5.
A very rough start, clearly.
And he's a serial arsonist
Oh,
and burglar, even breaking into occupied homes, sometimes trapping families inside.
yeah. He proudly considers himself the unknown, mysterious fire devil of Friedrichshain. Brags about evading police for years, even committing crimes while being shadowed. He describes it as a cat-and-mouse game he actually enjoyed, demonstrating this thrill-seeking, defiant nature ingrained from a very early age.
So a life immersed in crime from the start.
Absolutely. This account of his upbringing, his extensive criminal career, demonstrates a life utterly immersed in lawlessness from childhood. shaping this deeply ingrained criminal identity.
And his legal strategy inside the Blacksite sounds equally calculated.
Very much so. He only admits to what is court known, meticulously feigning partial amnesia due to a Hirschschaden alleged brain damage to avoid confessing to unknown crimes that could extend his sentence.
But the buyer says he confessed to faking it.
Yeah, the buyer confirms that the kindergarten Shrek confessed to him that he remembers everything, was only faking the amnesia, underscoring the manipulative prowess of some inmates.
Even though he's described as learning disabled, IQ of 76, speech impediment.
Right. Despite those apparent limitations, the buyer states he is smarter than the therapist and has been screwing them over for 8 years.
What?
The therapists, the buyer notes, even allow his disabled reading hour, offer what he calls stupid tips, like make pig noises, to break his fixed behaviors like his obsessive laundry washing or repeated checking of locks. A testament, in the buyer's view, to the Blacksite's seemingly ineffectual or misguided therapeutic interventions.
His facade, though, the buyer claims, completely drops when he's around women,
Yeah, that's when the mask supposedly slips.
revealing a crazy sexual offender who remains that way his whole life. Unchangeable by medication, therapy, or chemical castration, the buyer is unequivocally clear. This is unhealbar, incurable, a stark, absolute judgment.
It is, and this strong assertion by the buyer about the incurable nature of the kindergarten Shrek's deviance, it's a significant statement on the perceived efficacy of the Blacksite's interventions, and a chilling reality about such cases within penal psychiatry as depicted in his account.
It really raises that question again, doesn't it?
It does. If the individuals within this penal psychiatry are deemed unhealbar, beyond the reach of any treatment, what then is the true purpose of their confinement and the therapy they supposedly receive?
Is it just containment, punishment?
Or a genuine, albeit often failed, attempt at rehabilitation, especially when patients are seemingly so adept at manipulating the system and the therapists? What this reveals, perhaps, is a critical insight into the very nature of penal psychiatry here. For individuals deemed unhealbar, the institution functions less as a place of healing and more as a sophisticated, if flawed, system of containment and psychological manipulation, where the performance of therapy might be more important than its actual outcome.
A performance of therapy. That's a chilling thought. 5. Freddie Rudnick, the long-term serial rapist and murderer, a Blacksite veteran. Okay, finally, we come to the third member of the buyer's schloss, Fred Rudnick. The buyer calls him a true Blacksite Ergestein, an old-timer, a living legend of the Blacksite.
Yeah, a veteran of this system.
He's been incarcerated since October 8th, 1985, and is described as just a terrifying figure. 26 torture rape victims, breast mutilation, 4 murders, listed in the Lexicon der Serial Murder, the Encyclopedia of Serial Killers.
He's the real deal, in the worst possible way.
He knows he'll die in captivity, never be released. This is just a profound, unsettling detail about enduring evil within the Blacksite, a man who will spend his entire life confined.
Freddie Rudnick's case is a stark, truly horrific reminder of the gravity of the crimes that lead individuals to this penal psychiatry. Representing the most extreme end of the spectrum, he was, according to the buyer, one of the very first patients in the facility.
Really? Back in the 80s?
Yeah, it was a new building in the 1980s. He was among the first intake, providing this deep historical context to the Blacksite itself. The buyer describes how, even then, Rudnick brazenly had sex with visiting women in the garden huts.
Right from the start.
Right from the start, highlighting how long some of these predatory behavioral patterns have persisted within the institution, seemingly unaddressed by its purported purpose or security measures. His enduring presence just embodies the most extreme criminal pathology imaginable.
It sounds like Freddie wasn't just, having sex in the garden huts. He was actively manipulating the system with incredible ingenuity right from the beginning of his incarceration.
Oh yeah, his schemes were legendary, apparently.
He once removed a door lock, made his own master key to bring sex tourists unseen into his cell for weekends, then let them just blend out with other visitors.
Unbelievable audacity.
And later, in the 1990s, he created this complex cordless phone system, wiring a base station into a hollow pillar so he could make free, undisturbed calls, even engaging in phone sex with fans.
Fans. He had fans. Apparently so, according to the account. Both times, though, the buyer notes, he was betrayed by geistig behind her and mentally handicapped, envious patients, highlighting the internal politics, the betrayals within the Blacksite.
So inmate rivalries exposed him.
It seems like it. These elaborate schemes, described by the buyer, they demonstrate this extraordinary level of cunning, resourcefulness, and a profound disregard for rules. A clear illustration of the criminal mind's ability to adapt and exploit any environment.
It also exposes a systemic vulnerability in the Blacksite security, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Rather than relying on robust physical measures, it seems to have relied heavily on inmate informants, those geistig behind Niedern, to uncover illicit activities.
And today, does he still get away with stuff?
Today, the buyer claims Rudnick continues these illicit activities with a normal cell phone, operating with the knowledge of the entire nursing staff.
The staff know.
That's the claim. The buyer explicitly states that Rudnick has a friendly, trusting relationship based on bribery with the staff, who allegedly bring him alcohol, including rum, and allow him to take his phone on outings.
So total corruption.
Pervasive corruption, yeah. His only fear, significantly, is the Spezialeinheit, the special unit that conducts room searches, because they operate independently of the regular staff.
Ah, so there's one layer he can't bribe.
Apparently. This confirms, according to the buyer, the existence of these intricate layers of control and, disturbingly, pervasive corruption within this penal psychiatry, where money and illicit favors can bypass official protocols.
The core insight being that the alleged systemic corruption
can create this stratified security system, where different levels of authority are either compromised or genuinely independent, leading to this complex web of rule-breaking and enforcement.
Freddie also has this disturbing digital life that the buyer observed.
Yeah, technology again.
He owns both an Xbox One S and a PlayStation 3 Slim, not just for Netflix, but to store Blacksite alt-tag photos of daily Blacksite life, and images of staff and psychologists taken with his phone, which he then shares with other inmates.
It's like creating his own archive of the place.
And he constantly plays German Schlager music, which the buyer finds unbearable, though he makes an exception for Johnny Cash during Rudnick's rum-fueled birthday celebration.
Even serial killers have musical preferences, I guess.
This glimpse into his daily media consumption, his digital record-keeping, it provides another unsettling layer to his character, showing a level of access, defiance, that's hard to reconcile with a high-security institution.
This digital footprint within the penal psychiatry, as documented by the buyer, it's a powerful observation. A testament to the pervasive nature of technology and, more alarmingly, the laxity of control, or perhaps the active complicity of the staff.
And the press articles confirm his horrific past.
Oh, they do. The press articles referenced provide further chilling details about Freddie Rudnick's past. In March 1982, he murdered an unknown woman in his apartment, disposed of her body in a trash container.
Jesus.
2 weeks later, he committed that horrific double murder of the two Norwegian tourists, Carmen P. and Elin M., after offering them a ride. He raped one in front of the other, ran one over repeatedly with his car as she tried to escape, and then tortured and killed the second with an axe.
Just pure sadism.
The court details are stomach-churning. His statement, "Es war wie im Rausch," I was in a frenzy. And Elin M.'s haunting last words, reported in the press.
Es war so schön gewesen. Warum hast du nicht weitergemacht? Dann wäre jetzt schon alles vorbei. It had been so beautiful. Why didn't you continue? Then it would all be over now.
Oh my God, that's it. I have no words.
It offers this terrifying, direct look into the sadistic depths of his crimes, the utter dehumanization of his victims. He also had a failed attempt where a hitchhiker managed to disarm him, showing a rare moment of vulnerability or miscalculation in his long criminal career.
The cumulative impact is just the depravity.
Exactly. The consistent depraved nature of his pathology, the extreme danger he posed.
Rudnick was finally caught, though, after attacking a student.
Yeah, caught after raping and torturing a 19-year-old student in the Europa Center basement. She managed to identify him. Despite his severe crimes, a psychiatric expert initially attested to erheblich verminderte Schuldfähigkeit, significantly diminished culpability.
Diminished culpability.
Yeah.
After all that. Seems unbelievable.
Yeah.
But that was the initial assessment. However, the prosecutor pushed hard, received 2 life sentences plus 15 years, with the judge stating that with his dangerous dispositions, he should no longer be able to move as a free man among free people.
Thank God for that prosecutor. So the legal outcome recognized his danger.
It did. Irrespective of his mental state or any mitigating psychiatric assessment, today at 65, he was born in 1960, the buyer describes Rudnick as an old, frail man.
Frail?
Yeah, with end-stage COPD, struggling to breathe, looking 15, 20 years older than his actual age. He blames asbestos from his former work as a bricklayer, apparently.
Yeah?
Adamantly refusing to attribute it to a strong chain smoker.
Not.
Yet, despite this physical weakness, the buyer vividly observes that der Geist ist weiter willig gefährlich zu sehen. The spirit is still willing to be dangerous.
Still dangerous, even frail.
He still throws his weight around on his floor, treats it as his barrio, as his territory, aggressively threatening other patients, relying heavily on his notorious reputation as a serial killer to maintain dominance.
Using his past crimes as leverage.
Exactly. The buyer, however, claims to have no fear of him, recognizing the facade of power masking this physically diminished man. This observation speaks to the persistence of that predatory mindset, even when the body has failed, and the psychological games that continue to play out within the Blacksite,
It highlights how reputation can still exert power.
even when physical capacity has waned, a chilling aspect of long-term incarceration.
And Freddy, like the others, takes chemical castration and is also self-deceptive.
Yeah, according to the buyer, he's Volav self-patrogzline, fully self-deceptive. He praises therapy, praises medication to the psychologist, claims he doesn't want to leave because he'd miss the support of other patients.
Putting on a show for the staff.
Totally. Yet the buyer reveals his true desire. He spends a significant portion of his meager monthly allowance playing lotto,
Playing the lottery. Why?
hoping for a big win, to hire the Russian mafia for a spectacular escape and live out his last years in freedom, albeit as a poor beggar.
Hire the mafia to escape. Wow, that's a poignant contradiction. The outward compliance versus the hidden fantasy.
It's incredibly revealing, isn't it? This observation about Rudnick's hidden lottery dream. It completely strips away that Blacksite-conforming mask he presents to the staff, exposing his deep-seated, desperate desire for freedom, his true contempt for his confinement, despite his public claims of contentment.
It underscores the psychological games.
Absolutely. The constant performance for perceived benefits, coupled with his private, desperate, almost fantastical hope for escape. It also draws that powerful parallel to the buyer's own frustration, being subjected to similar side effects from forced medication, despite not being a sexual offender himself.
Right, that shared experience of bodily control.
Exactly. It highlights a shared experience of bodily control, the deep impact of the institution on individual autonomy, irrespective of the nature of their initial confinement, and the shared, often hidden, acts of defiance.
The core insight being that even after decades,
Despite outward compliance, years of incarceration, that fundamental desire for freedom, and the criminal mind's capacity for elaborate, even fantastical escape planning, it can persist, revealing the limits of institutional control over human will. Outro.
and there you have it, a truly extraordinary and frankly disturbing deep dive into the Blacksite Berlin penal psychiatry, all through the eyes of the buyer from the World Succession Deed 1400.
Yeah, quite a journey.
We've explored this hidden world where ingenuity, deception, desperation, they all intertwine. Against this alleged backdrop of complex international deep state involvement, as claimed in the account. From the Toyboy's dramatic relationships and cyber blackmail to the pedo sugar daddy's calculated abuse and, bizarre tech wizardry, and the chilling, unyielding presence of Freddie Rudnick. We've witnessed human behavior at its most extreme within this highly unusual institution.
This deep dive into the buyer's account provides some really unsettling insights into the dynamics of confinement, the persistence of criminal intent, and the often surprising ways individuals adapt or resist within such an environment.
Yeah.
The stories of these men and the buyer's own personal struggle for intellectual freedom amidst that forced medication, they underscore the profound impact of this unique penal psychiatry. It really forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about justice, rehabilitation, the limits of human resilience when operating under such clandestine conditions, and these conflicting state interests that are so meticulously documented in these firsthand accounts.
So what does this all mean for you listening? It's really a window into realities that exist just beyond the veil of everyday life.
Yeah, things we don't normally see or think about.
It challenges us to consider, how do institutions designed for either healing or containment truly impact the human spirit, especially when operating under such unique and hidden circumstances as the buyer describes them? What does it mean for our understanding of the world when such profound and disturbing experiences are presented not as theories, but as the lived factual reality within a camouflaged secret prison, as documented in this account? It's definitely a lot to mull over, and perhaps something to provoke your own further exploration into the systems we often take for granted.